What's up, y'all? My bad. I had that on loop. I was just playing it real quick. Hold on. Let me bring myself up to the thing. Let me take this off the screen. Uh, Welcome to Inside Abode. We live. You know, this is just what we do when we go live. Let me move this off of here. There we go. It's me. I'm back. You're stuck with me today. So, what we're gonna do today? We're gonna go over the market. We're gonna do a live reaction. We're gonna take a look at all the different South Sound areas specifically and see what's going on. You know what I mean? So we're gonna do that first. We're gonna hear from Windermere economist Jeff Tucker. You know, we're gonna do that next. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. It's been a very, very long week. Um, we're really busy right now. I did not expect, or at least in this office, I can only speak for Windermere Abode. We usually August is fairly sleepy, and I'll be honest, like I'm surprised at the amount of activity that we have right now. And you know, we can go into the macroeconomic factors like later in another episode, but there are factors that usually I'm not saying that are impacting this right now. Obviously, there are many, but I'm just saying like usually it's sleepy right now. It's not, and you know, I don't know why, but there's other factors involved. We do have the lowest mortgage rates that we've had in a while, actually all year, I believe, just this week, probably in reaction in response to Fed not cutting rates and then not meeting for a while. I think that, um, you know, typically mortgage rates, they're not all the way tied to the Fed rate, but they move. Actually, they've been kind of disassociating a little bit more recently. But I do think that that was a reaction in response to the jobs report that came out the end of last week, about a week ago. So, you know, there's all kinds of macroeconomic factors, but I do want to say this. You're here right now. You're listening to the podcast. And I will say this too. For this particular podcast, watch it on YouTube because the graphs that I'm going to show are going to be something that you need to see instead of hear. So if you're listening to this on the podcast version, cool. If you want to still listen to it, you can. You know, like I'll try to my best to like make it make sense to you, but I'm going to be looking at a lot of graphs on this one. So I just want to just shoot that out there. Also, hit the subscribe button. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for pulling up. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. We're just trying to give you some free game. That's all. Just trying to give you some data. So that's what I want to do on this one. Let me see what I'm going to do next here. So also, yes, last week was Zeke in here in the town. Isaiah Thomas, former Celtic, two-time All-Star, put on a show at the Tacoma Community College. It was super dope. I spent my time there most of the last weekend. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend, kind of chilling and being with the fam and just kind of having a weekend. So we're in the dog days of summer. I think a lot of people are, you know, the market typically gets sleepy right now. And at least in my experience, in our experience here at Abode. So I want to hear what Jeff Tucker saw from July and see what he saw. So the things that we're going to look at today are from July. So I'm not going to pull up any August 8th data. Today is August 8th. And so I want to make sure that y'all understand that. So the next video we're going to watch is going to be Jeff Tucker, Windermere economist, talking about the market.
Hi,
So
I'm Jeff Tucker, principal economist at Windermere Real Estate, and this is a local look at the July 2025 data from the Northwest MLS. After a bit of roller coaster in the second quarter following the April rollout of Trump's tariffs, July just looked slow and steady, especially in sales. We saw 4% more closed residential sales across the Northwest MLS in July than last year, and 3% more pending sales. On the supply side, there were 12% more new listings than July of last year, and the month ended with 36% more active listings than last July. Those are both almost identical to the pace of growth that we saw in June. Finally, the most steady number across the Northwest MLS was median sale price, which was exactly the same as last July at $675,000. The growth of active listings has been weighing down price appreciation and has now brought it down to zero. So this is yet more data showing a market where buyers are gaining negotiating leverage. So now I'll take a closer look at the 4 counties encompassing the greater Seattle area. Closed sales climbed here by 1% from last year, actually led by growth in Pierce County, which did offset a tiny decline in King County. Median sale prices were exactly flat year over year here in King County at exactly $1 million, up 10% in Kitsap to almost $600,000, up 1% in Pierce, and down 2% in Snohomish County. Looking ahead, pending sales climbed a modest 1% across the region, including a 2% gain in King County. On the supply side, the 4-county Greater Seattle area had over 9,000 active listings at the end of July, or 38% more than the same time last year. This is continuing the deceleration in inventory growth since we had 45% year-over-year gains back in May. Most of the deceleration is thanks to King County itself, where inventory was up 50% just a couple months ago. So all in all, this market looks to me like a return to a new normal where buyers have gained the upper hand, at least enough to grind price appreciation to a halt, although not nearly as much as it would take to actually bring prices down the way buyers would like. Inventory is still up, but it's not accelerating toward a glut. And new listings are continuing to deliver a lot of new options for buyers here in the dog days of summer. All right, that is all I've got for this local look at the July 2025 data. Thank you for watching.
All right, so you saw it right there, but I want to get a little bit deeper with that data. So I agree with everything. Obviously, that's the numbers. The numbers are the numbers. But I also think that when you dive into each community, you might see something a little bit different, or you can at least see the trends. And so what I want to do is I want to show you those trends over time for actives and pendings. And so let's take a look at that and we'll get out of here. But, you know, I think that this is interesting to look at when we talk about, here we go. Let me bring this up. And also, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm here, like pop them in the chat and then I'll answer any questions that you have. If you're here, if you're watching live, great. Or if you're just watching this after the fact, you're on YouTube, watch it there. That's cool too. I'll answer your question. Let me see if I can bring this up. Dang, I must have closed it. Did I close it? Let me bring this up. Sales ratios. So this data, we share this with our agents too, but this data is actually from a couple weeks ago. And I want to just show you what we're looking at city by city. So it's about a couple weeks old or a week old or so. Why is it not popping up on my thing? No diddy. Let's see here. All right, let's see. This one should pop up. Let's see. My bad for the wait, y'all. I know y'all are just like cannot wait to see what I'm about to show you. You're hanging. All right, so let me put myself over here, picture in picture, so they can make this a little bit bigger. So this is Pierce County. So this is Pierce County. But what we're going to do is we're going to go down through the different cities and take a look at a graph that represents the activity in actives and pendings and just see what it looks like. And this is probably my favorite graph. If I might do a green screen on this online too, on the social medias, just because like it just shows you so much in my opinion. So here's Gig Harbor. So this is Gig Harbor in the Gig Harbor MLS areas. So the green is active and the blue is pending. And you can see down here with the dates. So we're going all the way back from 2017, 1917. Definitely not that. 2017 and moving forward through 18 to the 20, the pandemic and whatnot. So actives and pendings. So let's look at, I want to start about from where we're at right now. So if we're in month 8, right? So let's look at, this is 8/16. What we're seeing was no different than in 8/16 in terms of the gap between actives and pendings. So the actives being green and the blues being pending, you can see there's so much more active than pending right there at that time. So again, August is typically sleepy and usually has like, we just have more inventory sitting in August pretty much. So let's go to August in 2018. August in 2018, different story. You can see here you had more actives, but it was maybe a little lagging. It was a little bit later, but that big gap in inventory versus pendings was happening towards the end of 2018 in Gig Harbor. So that actually kept going all the way until it flipped in 2020. And as you know, what happened in 2020, you can see here, and we move forward, and then the actives dipped all the way down, and then the pendings were there. So what we're seeing, like if you look at, so for example, we go forward to today, and yeah, look at this steep increase in terms of actives versus pendings. And actually, the pendings had a little tail. I'd be interested to see what this looks like for the second half of that month, of last month. According to this graph and how it looks with the rest of the graph. But like, were we panicking back here? Now, I understand the rates were lower at this time, but it's still, I would also argue then too, though, that pays more, from that time frame. Well, it should be, it was like 6 years ago. So based on COLA and just inflation and all those things, pay should be a little bit more at this time. I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying this is a great environment for buyers. I'm not saying that. But what I'm just saying in terms of just by the numbers, like this is where it's similar. It's similar. That's all I'll say. It's like we've been here before. Like you see this big gap here. This was a normal market, 2018, 19. So I like to look at 18, 17, 19 when the market was quote unquote normal. And it feels like to me, based on, especially like what you just saw with Mr. Tucker there, like going back to what a new normal, which that is a normal marketplace. Something like when you go to the store, okay, like when you go to the store, check this out. When you go to the store, is everything gone? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's going to be some products, the products that are hot are flying off the shelf, or maybe people like that certain thing or whatever. But like every single product ain't moving off the shelves. Like there's some products that just be sitting there. So like that's that. And in a housing market, we are in a housing market. It's a marketplace. And so the demand and the supply is going to shift and morph and do all those things. But like every product ain't going to move like that. Like we just got used to this market where everything was moving. It's just like, that's not realistic, like you go to the store, you'd be mad as hell if everything was gone. You wouldn't even want to shop there. So that's all I'm saying. All right, so let's go back. So that's Gig Harbor. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's go to North Tacoma. So area 13 and 25. So this is North Tacoma. You can see we'll go back. Let's do a backtrack. North Tacoma, on the other hand, is more of a hot area. Now, Gig Harbor's median price is higher. So when I'm looking at this, and I've looked at the old stuff, but I haven't looked at the the newer trends on this graph. But like when you look at 8, 16, 17, so we're in the same spot. Actually, we had a buyer's market here, or I'm sorry, a seller's market, because you had more pending. So that's why I wanted to break this down and go into each city, because every city is different. Every area is different. So this is probably one of the more, I love this graph because it shows me just at a snapshot. You don't even got to be the smartest person in the world to see like, all right, pendings are higher than actives. That means there's going to be more demand for those actives. There's going to be more demand for houses in this area. So if you're looking in North Tacoma, like this just shows you, okay, well, if it's, let's say 2018, around this same time, you had kind of a balance. Whereas like, all right, we had actives and pendings were sitting on the same spot, and then the pendings went straight down, but so did there wasn't a lot of listings either. So North Tacoma, and you can see here, boom, the listings even kept going down, and the demand actually picked up as the year turned to 2019. Demand picked up early all the way throughout the year. There's just basically, as you can see here, there's just a lot of demand. Anytime you see this gap like this, where the blues are way higher than the greens, like that's a big gap. And obviously in 2020, we already know what happened. I'm not going to look at that, but let's go forward to right now. So 7, 16, 25, you have actives up, and then there's a steep decrease while the pendings had a super high increase. So those might meet. Are they going to meet in the middle there? And then more pendings than actives. I'm not banking on that, but it could be a possibility for North Tacoma though. So anyway, that's interesting. Let's go to Central Tac. Central Tac. All right, Central Tac. History lesson. Boom. 2017, around the same time, same month, August 2017, you had more pendings than actives. Big gap here. Look at that. Big gap. And then now you still have a big gap. That gap persisted all the way through 2018. And then what happened in 2018 towards the end? You have, and this is typical. That's a typical market for the most part. Like towards the end of the year, the actives moving up faster than moving up, and then we have a gap of actives versus buyers, so the demand wanes a little bit. But then look at this. We went right back in 2019, and even before the pandemic in Central Tacoma, because it's a more affordable. It's more towards the median price in Tacoma, which is hovering around like 500,000. So you might have some properties in that time. Back at this time, it wasn't 500,000. Back at this time, I believe it was, if I had to guess, 2019 when we started is around 250. So if I had to guess, right here is about 285 to 300. If I had to guess. So, but yeah, the actives were definitely outpacing, the pendings were outpacing the actives and have been for a long time in Central Tacoma. So that's going to be a very competitive space to buy if you're going to buy. But look at this, what happened in 2024. I call this opportunity personally, and I'm just seeing this for the first time. So when I'm looking at this is what I'm seeing. I look at this as opportunity. Now, this is probably where, 2024 rates were high, outlook wasn't great, economic outlook wasn't great, all those things. And so you had an opportunity here to potentially get something there. And I believe that opportunity here is again right now, at the current day. So 7/16/25, we move all the way to the end. You see more actives than pendings. But look at how they're just trying to meet each other in the middle there. That means the actives are coming down, they're getting snapped up, pendings are going up. So that makes sense that those going up. So yeah, you can see the trend there. So basically you see the same thing kind of here, but look at this though. Era 3135. What is this? This is UP, University Place. So University Place, look at that here. You can see both lines are going the opposite directions. The actives are going up and the pendings are going down. So that's interesting to me. Will we see something that's more similar to last year? Like where in 2024, you can see from the start of the year, that's last year, we had actives outpacing the pendings towards the end of the year, but in the beginning of the year, the pendings were outpacing actives, which is kind of normal in that spring session. But it looks like there wasn't as much inventory right there at that time, even during 2018-19. So that's another thing to look at on all these charts. Like over here, if I'm back here at 2017-18, look at how much more in University Place. Look at how much more actives and inventory you have access to. The lines are way up here, and now you move forward to right here. We're creeping back up to that range, but will we continue? Will this continue to go up? I don't know. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and I'll share this with y'all because I think I've never done this with this on here. I do it with our agents all the time in our meetings. Pause, but I think this is a really good one. So this is UP. So obviously 2020 is going to look like this for every area in Pierce County. The pendings are going to be all the way. There's going to be a big gap between the pendings and the actives. There's going to be such a big gap. It was a super competitive market, not much on the market. You had to fight for everything. That's not a normal market, y'all. So I think this is actually normal. So what we're experiencing right now is actually, in my opinion, more normal. It's just hard. It's not favorable terms. And so, I get that part. But in terms of the numbers and the activity and the amount of activity and the amount of active listings and the options that buyers have, it's probably the best environment we've had since 18-19. so 17. So I mean, like that's not a bad thing, I don't think, to me personally. But it's also, the bad thing is it's not affordable. And so how do we get those prices down? Well, the like you saw on the thing, the appreciation's not like shooting and skyrocketing up, so that's a good thing. Lakewood, Tillicum, DuPont, Stillicum. So those are all lumped together on this one because you just need a bigger sample size. But same thing going on here. You can see the actives shooting straight up, and the pendings kind of consolidating sideways right here, actually going down on the last data point that we have right here. So I'm interested to see on this one in DuPont, and especially down south in Thurston County. I'm very interested to see like what's happening in that region, because that's a special region because of the base, because of JBLM. So that's why I'm interested in that area, because they're impacted by different things than, say, the civilian market. Let me go forward. 4562. What do we got? South Tacoma here. Excuse me. South Tacoma, Southeast Tacoma. So I'll go through these a little bit faster. You can see like pendings now that like look at that. Look at that big old gap. Even back then, this is a more affordable. So you have a affordable price point in this area in South Tacoma. So that's why you're going to see the demand here from 2017, 18, 19, didn't matter. Like all the way through the pandemic, like if you were trying to buy in South Tacoma, like you were going to, and that actually shows, like it's an area that's had South Tacoma Way come up and new businesses over there. And, like it's really dope over there, over in South Tacoma, down in South Tacoma, I should say. But look at this. The gap in South Tacoma, and rightfully so because of what we just saw, isn't as wide as some of the other gaps in terms of the pendings and actives. So you can see the actives going up, but also the pendings going up too. So that's interesting. Let's keep an eye on South Tacoma. What's the next area? Parkland. Man, I grew up in my grandmama lived in Parkland, so I have spent a lot of time in Parkland. Parkland, another very popular area. You can see the pendings outpacing the actives from 2017. They touched a little bit there in late 17, and then boom, right back down. The actives just were getting ate up. But look at the actives here now. Fast forward to today, just this last month, just in July. Like the actives went shot straight up. Pendings are shooting down. I mean, again, I'm going to be interested to see what the next report looks like, but you saw something like that here in 2022. I would imagine this year, this is when the rates were going, so you saw the actives go boom, just shot straight down. Pendings shot up. So, I mean, I just, yeah, every area is so different. It's interesting. But one thing that I am seeing, what are you seeing, first of all? Like, you think about what you're seeing. What I'm seeing is, obviously, when we get to the end here for like the most updated data points, actives are outpacing the pendings. That's what it shows in the video. Jeff Tucker said it. The numbers are saying that, all the above. But it's different when you look at it this way and kind of see what the trends are and how these actives and pendings act over time. So looks like a fairly volatile normal. Volatile and normal should not be in the same sentence. But yeah, this is just an interesting one here. I don't really have much to say on that. You see the big gap, 2020, obviously. Pendings are just like, there's a big gap between pendings and actives. And then we go back to kind of normal, cyclical market. But from 23 to 24, all the way through 24, actually, it's been a while. The last time in this area, which is, what is this area? Oh, this is Fife, Milton, Edgewood, and Sumner. The last time you had pendings outpacing actives was in 2022. So ever since then, there's a little small moment in time in the spring of 23 where pendings outpaced actives. But outside of that, like since 2022, it's been more actives than pendings in those areas. Wow, look at 78, 89. What's that? That is Puyallup, Graham, and Frederickson. So obviously 2020 looks similar. So when you look at the middle right here, you're going to see this. You're going to see the big blue over the green, the big old gap. You're going to see that. But like what I like to look at is these deep. So let's say this is 2022 in Puyallup in that area, Puyallup, Sumner, Edgewood, Fife, Milton. You see this deep decrease in 2022, which everyone did that. I think that was when the rates went up to 7%. I think so. I think that was a year. They all match together now, in my head at least. And then take a look at this. Like, look at how, man, that's crazy. So if you have the actives shooting straight up like this, as a seller, I'm definitely looking at it like, okay, well, there's more stuff on the market. What's on the market? What do the comps look like? So because, it's house to house. This market, just because these numbers say this does not mean that your house won't sell. I'm just saying that you have to understand like where we're at in this market. Price accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be competitive. Same thing for this area. Browns Point. Look at Browns Point. Last time that they had pendings over actives was for a sliver in the spring of 24, for a sliver in 23, but it was the pandemic. But even before that, it kind of went side to side, like it was cyclical, just like a normal market. But like right here, it's shooting straight up. I wonder why. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. You can look into that too. And the same thing, and this is the last one I'll do, Spanaway. Spanaway is actually a really hot area. It has always been one of the top areas in 2020, 2019, around that area, or 2018, 19. One of the top selling areas at that time. Very hot market. And look at the actives. Boom, just shot straight up. Pennies going down. So even in Spanaway, that's happening. So that's what I got for today, y'all. If that was interesting to you, yeah, drop a comment, whatever. Subscribe, do what you need to do. But hopefully that helped. Just going down some of the areas and taking a look at like what did those trends really look like and how did it compare to 2017, 18, before we hit the pandemic and the crazy market. But like you'll see that it's actually kind of normal for some areas. In some areas, the gap isn't as big. That means that when the rates do come down, those will be super competitive areas. Like I think Spanaway was the one that was super close right now. So you just want to make sure that you're watching out for that kind of stuff. And if you have more questions, hit us up or hit up one of our agents. They all have access to this at Windermere Abode. And now actually you do too, I guess, because you just watched it. But we have it all the time. And so basically, if you like more of that, then hit our agents up. Hit the one, go down the roster and just see who you like or whatever. Or hit me up, davidjones@windermere.com. And with that, I'll see y'all on the next one. All right. Peace.